Hello guys, welcome back to another YouTube video today. And today I'm going to be doing my second upload and first time trying ASMR. Today we're going to be reading my third or fourth book that I've read so far this month. And let's get started. It's a big book. I'm not sure if it's public domain. If it's not, then I'm going to be sad. So let's get the book, shall we? The name of the book is The Midnight Library. It's a novel by Matt Haig. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I don't really have that much now, so not really that much typing. But let's get started. The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Now let's get started. Just need a sip of water. Matt Haig, The Midnight Library. Chapter 1. A Conversation About Rain. 19 years before she decided to die, Nora Seed sat in the warmth of the small library at Hazelden School in town of Bedford. She sat at a low table staring at a chessboard. "Nora, dear, it's natural to worry about your future," said the librarian, Mrs. Elm, her eyes twinkling. Mrs. Elm made her first move at night, hopping over the neat row of white pawns. "Of course you're going to be worried about the exams, but you could be anything you want to be, Nora. Think of all the possibility. It's exciting." "Yes, I suppose it is. A whole life in front of you. A whole life. You could do anything, live anywhere, somewhere a bit less cold and wet." Nora pushed a pawn forward 2 spaces. It was hard not to compare Mrs. Elm to her mother, who treated Nora like a mistake in need of correction. For instance, when she was a baby, her mother had been so worried that Nora left ears stuck out more than her right that she'd used sticky tape to address the situation, then disguised it beneath a woolen bonnet. "I hate the cold and wet," added Mrs. Elm for emphasis. Mrs. Elm had short gray hair and kind of mildly crinkled oval face, sitting pale above her turtle green polo neck. She was quite odd, but she was also the person most on Nora's wavelength in the entire school, and even on days when it wasn't raining, she would spend her afternoon break in the small library. That was the prologue. The Man at the Door, Chapter 1 for real. 27 hours before she decided to die, Nora Seed sat on her dilapidated sofa scrolling through other people's happy lives, waiting for something to happen. And then, out of nowhere, something actually did. Someone, for whatever peculiar reason, rang her doorbell. She wondered for a moment if she shouldn't get the door at all. She was, after all, already in her night clothes, even though it was only 9 p.m. She felt self-conscious about her oversized Eco-Warrior t-shirt and her tartan pajama bottoms. She put on her slippers to be slightly more civilized and discovered that the person at the door was a man, and one she recognized. He was tall and gangly and boyish, with a kind face, but his eyes were sharp and bright, like they could see through things. It was good to see him, if a little surprising. especially as he was wearing sport gears and looked hot and sweaty despite the cold, rainy weather. Despite the cold, rainy weather. The juxtapose the juxtaposition between them made her feel even more slovenly than she had done 5 seconds earlier. But she'd been feeling lonely, and though she'd studied enough existential philosophy to believe loneliness was a fundamental part of being a human and an essentially meaningless universe, it was good to see him. Ah, Ash, she said, smiling. It's Ash, isn't it? Yes, it is. What are you doing here? It's good to see you. A few weeks ago, she had been sat playing her electric piano, and he'd run down Bancroft Avenue and had seen her in the window here at 33A and given her a little wave. He had once, years ago, asked her out for a coffee. Maybe he was about to do that again. It's good to see you, too, he said, but his tense forehead didn't show it. When she'd spoken to him in the shop, he had always sounded breezy. But now his voice contained something heavy. He scratched his brow, made another sound, but didn't quite manage a full word. You're running? A pointless question. He was clearly out for a run, but he seemed relieved momentarily to have something trivial to say. Yeah, I'm doing the Bedford half. It's this Sunday. Oh, right. Great. I was thinking of doing a half marathon, and then I remembered I hate running. This had sounded funnier in her head than it actually did as words being vocalized out of her mouth. She didn't even hate running, but still she was perturbed to see the seriousness of his expression. The silence went beyond awkward into something else. You told me you had a cat, he said eventually. Yes, I have a cat. I remember his name. Voltaire? A ginger tabby? Yeah. I call him Volts. He finds Voltaire a bit pretentious. It turns out he's not only massively into 8th century French philosophy and literature, he's quite down to earth, for a cat. Ash looked down at her slippers. I'm afraid I think he's dead. What? He's lying very still by the side of the road. I saw the name on the collar. I think the car might have hit him. I'm sorry, Nora. She was so scared of her sudden switch in emotions right then that she kept smiling, as if the smile could keep her in the world she had just been in. The one where Volts was alive and where the man she'd sold guitar songbooks to had rung her doorbell for another reason. Ash, she remembered, was a surgeon, not a veterinary one, a general human one. If he said something was dead, it was, in all probability, dead. I'm so sorry. Nora had a familiar sense of grief. The only sertraline stopped her crying, "Oh, God!" She stepped out onto the wet, cracked paving slabs of Bancroft Avenue, hardly breathing, and saw the poor ginger-furred creature lying on the rain-glossed tarmac beside the curb. His head grazed the side of the pavement, and his legs were back as if in a mild gallop, chasing some imaginary bird. Oh, Volts! Oh, no! Oh, God! She knew she should have been experiencing pity and despair for her feline friend, and she was, but she had to acknowledge something else. As she stared at Voltaire's still and peaceful expression, that total absence of pain, there was an inescapable feeling brewing in the darkness. Envy. That doesn't seem that logical, guys. String theory. 9.5 hours before she decided to die, Nora arrived late of her afternoon shift at string theory. I'm sorry, she told Neil in the scruffy little windowless box of an office. My cat died last night and I had to bury him. Well, someone helped me bury him, but then I was left alone in my flat and I couldn't sleep and I forgot to set the alarm and didn't wake up until midday and then had to rush. This was all true, and she imagined her appearance, including makeup-free face, loose makeshift ponytail, and the same second-hand green corduroy pinafore dress she had worn to work all week. Hold up, guys, I need to do something that can help it out a bit. Yes, this should probably help with the audio a bit. It was all true. Second week. Corridori pinafore dress she had worn to work all week, garnished with a general air of tired despair, would back her up. Neil looked up from his computer and leaned back in his chair. He joined his hands together and made a steeple out of his index fingers, which he placed under his chin, as if he was Confucius Confucius contemplating a deep philosophical truth about the universe rather than the boss of a musical equipment shop dealing with a late employee. There was a massive Fleetwood Mac poster on the wall behind him, the top right of the corner of which had come unstuck and flopped down like a puppy's ear. Listen, Nora, I like you. Neil's harmless. A 50-something guitar aficionado who liked cracking bad jokes and playing passable old Dylan covers live in the store. And you've got mental health stuff. Everyone's got mental health stuff. You know what I mean. I'm feeling much better generally, she lied. I'm not clinical. Okay. I'm not clinical. The doctor says it's situational depression. It's just that I keep on having new situations. But I haven't taken a day off sick for it at all. Apart from when my mom, yeah, apart from that. Neil sighed. When he did so, he made a whistling sound of his nose, an ominous B flat. Nora, how long have you worked here? 12 years, and she knew this too well. 11 months and 3 days. 12 years is 11 months and 3 days. On and off. That's a long time. I feel like you are made for better things. You're in your late 30s. I'm 35. You got so much going on for you. You teach people piano. One person. He brushed a crumb off his sweater. Did you picture yourself stuck in your hometown working in a shop, where you were 14? What did you picture yourself as? At 14, a swimmer? At 14, a swimmer. She'd been the fastest 14-year-old girl in the country at breaststroke and second fastest at freestyle. She remembers standing on a podium at the National Swimming Championships. So what happened? She gave the short version. It was a lot of pressure. Pressure makes us, though. You start off as coal, and the pressure makes you a diamond. She didn't correct his knowledge of diamonds. She didn't tell him that while coal and diamonds were both carbon, coal is too impure to be able, under whatever pressure, to become a diamond. According to science, you start off as coal and you end up as coal. Maybe that was the real life lesson. She smoothed a straight strand of her coal black hair up towards her ponytail. What are you saying, Neil? It's never too late to pursue a dream. Pretty sure it's too late to pursue that one. You're a very well qualified person, Nora. Degree in philosophy. Nora stared down at a small mole in her left hand. That mole had been through everything she'd been through, and it stayed there, not caring, just being a mole. Not a massive demand for philosophers in Bedford. If I'm honest, Neil, you went to uni. I had a year in London, then came back. I didn't have much of a choice. Nora didn't want a conversation about her dead mom or even Dan, because Neil had found Nora's backing out of a wedding with 2 days' notice of the most fascinating love story since Kurt and Courtney. We all have choices, Nora. There's such things as free will. Well, not if you subscribe to deterministic view of the universe. But why here? It was either because of the animal rescue center. This paid better. Plus, music. You're in band with your brother. I was. The labyrinths weren't really going anywhere. Your brother tells a different story. This took Nora by surprise. Joe, how do you know? How do you know? He bought an amp, Marshall DSL 40. When? Friday? He was in Bedford, unless it was a hologram like Tupac. He was probably visiting Ravi, Nora thought. Ravi was her brother's best friend, while Joe had given up guitar and moved to London for a blank IT job he hated. Ravi had stuck to Bedford. He played in a covers band now called Slaughterhouse 4, doing pub gigs around town. Right, that's interesting. I was pretty certain her brother knew Friday was her day off. The fact prodded her from inside. I'm happy here, except you weren't. He was right. A soul sickness festered within her. Her mind was throwing itself up. She widened her smile. I mean, I'm happy with the job. Happy as in, satisfied, Neil. I need this job. You are a good person. You worry about the world, the homeless, the environment. I need a job. He was back in the Confucius pose. You need freedom. I don't want freedom. This is a non-profit though organization, though I have to say it is rapidly becoming one. Look, Neil, is this about what I said the other weeks about you needing to modernize things? I've got some ideas on how to get younger people. No, he said defensively. This place used to just be guitars, string theory. Get it? I diversified, made this work. It's just that when the times are tough, I can't pay you to cut off customers with your face looking like a wet weekend. What? I'm afraid, Nora. He paused for a moment. About the time it takes to lift an axe into the chair, I'm going to have to let you go. Chapter 3. To live is to suffer. We will read this next time. If you keep up, if you can get more than 20 likes on this video, we will continue. Thank you guys for reading with us.